What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again with the next episode of Educate and Dominate, that one-on-one interview series where we take some of the top names of the game and get their insights so we can bring your game to the next level. My next guest is representing the G3 Guild on the European side, Zodiac. We got ourselves none other than Beastrix in the mix. What is going on, my man?
Thank you. I'm just chilling,
Chilling.
trying to wait for dinner.
My man, I like it. I like it. Yeah, buddy. All right. So, thank you guys all for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. I want to say about 2 months ago, we did a 5-part miniseries with Onceinluv called Educate and Dominate Operation Midgame, where we focus on 5 different stages of PvE progression in order to help you guys all out. This time around, I wanted to go ahead and check in with the audience to try to get some feedback on some of the things that they're struggling with. And we have been able to realize that a lot of people, when it comes to that Conquer 3, G1, Guardian 2 rank Guild Wars, are struggling as far as what they can counter in the meta. Also, what kind of different types of teams they can utilize if they don't have those, big and bad monsters here. So, what we're going to be focusing on today with Beastrix, we're going to talk about the importance of a few types of runes or stats. We'll be talking about some of the common mistakes people make when looking into Guild Wars, and then showcase a multitude of units. We're looking at over 15 units here, different types of units and combinations that you can utilize, as well as some of the common teams that we see in the Guardian 1, 2, and even 3 meta, and how you can go about countering those with these specific units that we mentioned today. So without further ado, let's get started underway. Now, again, this is the first time you are here, Beastrix, so why don't you go ahead and fill us in on how you even got involved in that Summoners War aspect? Give us a little bit of history here.
Oh, first off, I started playing on the NES when I was very, very young. My aunt had one, and I think we got it from her, and played Legend of Zelda, the one with the golden cartridge. I loved it. I've been a bit unfortunate with it when it comes to health, and ended up in a hospital in need of a heart transplant. And while I was there, I was looking for games to keep my head off the situation. And my dad bought me an iPad so I could watch football and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, Summoners War just popped up on my list of games to try.
There you go. Yeah. By the way, shout out to you, Dad, if you're watching. You are the best. I know a lot of dads out there. They grew up old school. They're like, oh man, I'm trying to get my son to go out and do things. We grew up with that technology, like going crazy high, and so nobody likes to see their kid like sitting in houses and hospitals all day long playing games. But the fact that your dad supported you in this hard time, that's truly amazing. So I'm glad that everything turned out well, and everything's all good now, and you found Summoners War. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
So, with regards to Zodiac, Guardian 3 Guild on the European side, that's had a lot of changes here. Tell me a little bit about the history of Zodiac and how you knew about it, and then what led you into that guild.
Well, Zodiac started out as a social guild, competitive guild on the global side before the split into Asia and Europe. Revark was the leader back then, and he's the leader now. We're both we didn't start together, but after a while, Nova and Zodiac merged and created Noviac, who then went on to be one of the strongest guilds, if not the strongest guild, for a very, very long time on the European server. Helped a lot of players try to get back up there, so the server could catch up to global and Asia in terms of understanding of the game and stuff like that. And after a while, Revark took a break, and when he returned, he created Legion along with someone else, I think. And after a while, I came to join him when he restarted Zodiac, because I also was interested in this social aspect more so than the competitive one, as I was quite tired of that that part of the game.
Sure.
Because there was so little discussion to be had within the communities I was in, and the best way to learn is by teaching others. So yeah, I felt like going down and help people out, trying to
like improve their game
teach,
and stuff. Yeah,
improve their game and make them understand the game better, give them a bit of guidance of what to do.
Yeah.
And well, I'm no arena expert or real-time arena expert. I don't put much thought into that, but I do enjoy Guild Wars very, very much. So
Yeah.
That's basically what I play for.
Right, and that's you and me both, my man. I literally, like, I obviously have some teams for the arena, and I use it to get my glory points in. But ultimately, my units are focused. My runes are focused around my best runes are focused around my Guild War units. So that's what I really enjoy. Doing what I can for the team, for the guild. So, shoot, man, let's get right into it here. I'm too excited to get up in this stuff.
Yeah, you'll be able to see that my Bernard is just about speedless. I don't do arena, but then again, you'll see my immensity is quite fast. So instead of a 300 speed Bernard, I've chosen to go for around 270 speed on my Swift Shield Chloe and my immensity and Orion for defense and stuff like that. So
right on.
Yeah, it's been a choice.
Yeah.
And I haven't farmed enough to make Bernard keep up.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yet.
It is all good. So let's get into that first topic of today. For people out there that are getting ready to break into that, Guardian 1, Guardian 2 ranks and trying to make a betterment for myself, there's definitely one type of rune that is by far so important that you just cannot neglect it. What do you think that rune is and why?
Will runes. It's everything you do in Guild Wars when it comes to defense and offense. You can close off a lot of things by just having will runes and open up your alternatives for offense with just putting will runes on there. So let's say you have a defense with Orion or Galleon. Someone with a Leo will come in there and disrupt you if you don't have will runes on them. And say you have a tanky team without will runes, people around you will most likely get to know you as often they hit you. So eventually they'll just know they can nuke you because you don't have the will runes in place.
Gotcha. Yep. Gotta have them. I honestly, I always make the joke on my channel. When I was in Alpha, I was constantly, sitting in there trying to grind out the Necro. I'd always try to justify a reason to go to Dragons or Giants because it's so much quicker, but ultimately I needed to stay in Necro as long as I can because I do no good for my guild if I cannot, incorporate Will in certain, current teams as well as start to build new teams in order to counter what I see in the current meta. For the longest time, I did not have any type of cleave type of comp because I just didn't have the shield or will runes, and then I started to get a few, and I was able to make a new comp that allows me to, again, counter what I see. Of course, RNG can always affect me in that negative manner if they remove the right thing, but RNG goes both ways, so it can happen. It can happen. So will runes, number one. Number two, I think this is a funny topic here. I know that a lot of people really have an issue with this, and it's the concept of I think it's like the world we live in. We're all about, it's 2017. We're all about fast, trying to do everything as fast as possible here. The importance of just when you're building certain teams, don't really necessarily think about what you can get done the first turn, but more so the best way to go about taking the team. Doesn't have to be fast, right? It can be slow. You can take your time with it. You don't have to rush when it comes to Guild Wars. Arena, they got that tower, whereas Guild Wars they don't. What is your overall take on your strategy when it comes to what you can counter in that rank there? What do you think?
Well, when it comes to Arena, you have the towers, as you say, but for me, the more important thing is you have the rush hour aspect of it, where you need to get certain amount of wins within the time. But in Guild Wars, you already have 12 hours every war, so there's no point in stressing with using your swords So yeah, you can just take your time and make use of the tactical options you have. And if you can survive their initial hits and bruise them down, then that's a good alternative. Whatever gives you more chance of success is the best alternative, in my opinion. Unless, of course, you have a job that gives you a very small time frame, then of course nuke away. But yeah, in my opinion, unless you are severely under rune compared to your opponent, or on the other aspects, if you're way overpowered compared to your opponent, you shouldn't nuke.
Gotcha. Right on. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at here shortly, talking about a ton of different units that are definitely high quality units, but not generally built in a way that you're trying to get that first turn, trying to take that KO quickly here. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at quite a few monsters here that you guys can utilize in the various types of teams, combinations, so that you can counter what you currently see in that G1, G2 meta here. We're going to take a look at basically a family of different 3-star monsters, and then go ahead and have some honorable mentions as far as some 4-star masters down the road. But ultimately, the goal is to put you in that thought process, in that even though there are so many unique natural 4-stars and natural 5-stars out there with amazing hits and whatnot, there's a lot of alternatives that you can use to get the job done. And like Beastrix said early on, if you have the time, which a casual player is going to have in that G1, G2 rank, they're not rushing, might as well take advantage of it. Better safe than sorry here. So without further ado, we're going to start out with the Battle Mammoth Valley, and none other than one of the top-notch units out here, Talk, the Waterband Mammoth. So tell me a little bit about this unit, pros and cons, and how do you like to use it?
Yeah, Talk is very good for the kind of teams that I prefer to use on Guild Wars offense, because it heals, but it also adds the defense buff, which some people think is 50% of your total defense, but it's actually 70%. So it gives you a lot of extra defense, and by that a lot of extra survivability.
Yeah.
And it has a passive that reduces damage by 50% if the damage is less than 20%, which in simpler terms means that if a TMR on the first attack only deals 8,000 damage, then if you have over 40,000 with on your talk, then the damage will be reduced by 20%. Okay. No, by 50%. So it makes him more tanky. I don't use my talk much now, but I intend to soon, because of the new patch that gives me more alternatives for Guild War offense. I use Emma, but Talk is a perfectly valid monster. I used him a lot until I got my Emma max skilled.
Gotcha. And with regards to
and just so that's it said as well, Talk isn't inferior to Emma. It's just that for my comps, I prefer to have that D-spell on Emma second rather than the provoke that Talk provides, and the more tankiness that Talk provides. Gotcha. Even though he has lesser base stats for defense, he does have that passive that helps him a lot.
Gotcha. And with regards to this particular skill here, it has a cooldown time of 3 turns when it's maxed out here. Is this one of those units that we're going to focus on stats over sets with regards to getting, that HP as high as possible, or do you value like a Valiant set on this particular unit with regards to rune recommendations?
It depends, really. For some it depends on your partners and who you prefer to hit. But in general, you have both Emma and Talk who does the same job, and I prefer to have them on Violent just to get that heal more often. But you'll want quite a bit of speed in order to get that cooldown down. And you'll want a bit of defense because you get a lot of defense because of that defense buff. And you want a lot of HP in order to use that passive.
Right, to take advantage of that passive here. And then we're going to be talking about a lot of different units here. Some of them are going to be mentioned with Talk, but with regards to like your kind of like go-to composition utilizing Talk, what's an example or two of your teams that you like to use with Talk?
Talk Tractor, Rageon, or Grogo.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. And let's take a look at the other part of the family here.
He is in general TOA monster, but he does the same thing. He does a defense buff that you can use, and it has the defense lead for if you use, for example, Crawler as the damage dealer. Mards especially uses Basalt, Crawler, and Veramos, and it's a good composition. It's
Gotcha.
the kind of comp I would use.
Right on. Cool. And
But then again, you'd instead of Revenge, which many use for the extra provoke on TOA, you'd have to go Will in order to get that safety on the first turn.
sure. Sure, most definitely here. All right, cool. Let's see. What is our next group of units here? We have ourselves the Serpent family. Definitely one that doesn't need any introduction here. We see a lot of people utilizing this particular unit that I'm going to mention to be able to counter some of the top fire units out there. But ultimately, there's quite a handful of Serpents in here that we can take advantage of here. But we'll start out with the popular one here, Armada. Tell me a little bit about this one. Pros and cons. What do you like?
With Armada, it's the passive. That's amazing because it increases your tankiness against fire units by 50%. And if you have a 30k HP Armada, which is lowballing it, then in practice you have a 60k HP Armada. And it helps you tank Pernas, Rakans, and other single target nukers that is in the fire family easy.
Right.
And when it comes to runing Armada, you'll want whale runes because, you don't want to get nuked the first turn, and you want shield runes because Armada doesn't need despair. Armada doesn't need anything else of the four sets, four rune sets. So you can get the shield runes and the wheel runes on there, and have wheel runes on the rest of your party, and be more safe against the RNG that Orion provides.
Gotcha. Yep. This is definitely one that I'm really excited for people to try out. I mean, it's funny because there's a lot of people out there. There's influencers out there that definitely utilize this one here, but again, people are just like, they get into that scenario where it's like, oh, I don't want to build it for this, comp. I don't want to build it for that comp or whatever like that. But ultimately, we are all waiting for that next big monster. And if we're sitting here constantly finding people out there in the guild wars that we're facing with particular units that we can't counter, but this is an option, then this is obviously a no-brainer here to go ahead and take advantage of, especially if you have the other units that you can combine with this one, in order to force your opponent's DPS on this particular unit, micromanage it, and then just, like I said, take them down by means of attrition here. So keep that in mind, guys, as we're going to be mentioning a lot of units here that we ultimately, you'll be like, why do I want to build this for one counter or two counter? But that at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. You are here to create. You're basically able. You're here to create these compositions in order to take the opponent down. And ultimately, if you don't have the units but you have the runes, you can have. You can take advantage of these alternatives. They'll be a little bit slower, but hey, as long as you get the W, that's what your guild wants.
Yeah, and if you're going to use it against, for example, a Perna, getting some defense stats on it, as it has terrible base defense, helps a lot. Those who want can see on mine, I've put around plus 400 defense on it from subs in order to make it more tanky. But yeah, it's a good monster. You can use Shield Will Destroy if you want to do a bit more damage against those with high HP, but yeah.
Gotcha.
You build those monsters because they give you a tactical advantage, and you get some defenses that are cakewalk because you have those tactical advantages.
Yep, yeah, I love it.
And that's why you have to build them eventually. Well, have to, depends on your luck on other pulls, but in general, I'd say everyone who wants to get stability needs those base tactical advantages in place. Just like a lot of people mentioned, okay, you're going up against bruisers, why don't you just build the Ramagods and clean shot them? And Armada falls into that category because of that passive.
Right.
But the way to use it is you use it to tank fire units, and often it will be a Perna that's paired with an Orion, and in those cases you use 2 water units alongside the Armada, for example Theomars and Konamiya, Konamiya to provide some of the heals and cleanse in case you're unlucky with the defense break and heal block. Because the other two are Walty units, the fire unit won't hit them unless you are very, very low on HP. So you more or less force their artificial intelligence over on Armida, regardless of where the defense break from Orion lands.
Right on. Cool. All right, let's take a look at a unit that definitely gets a lot of popularity when it comes to the Arena Cleave teams or the TOA teams. We got ourselves Mantura, the Dark Serpent here. You believe that this is another unit that people can take advantage of in the Guild Wars. And of course, if they already have a build for TOA in Arena, might as well play around with it. What do you think about this particular unit and the build? What do you think?
Mantura is one of those monsters that does an AoE defense break. It's based on max HP, so you'll build it naturally tanky. It also has 2 AoE attacks, which means despair. Here we come. It's just a good unit. It's more or less a mini retouch. It doesn't heal, so of course the Nat 5 will be better. But you can use it on defense if you have, for example, a Praha and stuff like that to do everything but the AoE defense break. And in general, you'll have, for example, the Dark Penguin. It's not very tanky. It won't do much besides the AoE defense break. If you don't have that retouch, you can use Matura in order to get that effect in your team.
Gotcha. Right on. Let's see here. So with regards to, you kind of already mentioned it there. Mantra would be the kind of unit that you would substitute in all, with regards to like Ritesh or whatnot here. When it comes to the offensive side, though, would this be a unit that you play around with or recommend, or is this something that you're just like looking at for the defensive side?
I think some use it for offense, but from my point of view, it's mostly a defense unit.
Okay.
Because you have, in my mind, when it comes to Guild Wars, you have, and Arena, especially for Mantura, you have defense-based monsters are good for offense, while you'll want HP monsters for bruising defense teams. There are, in my mind, 2 categories of defenses that are good. You have speed defense and you have bruiser defense. For free-to-play players or players who lack certain great Nat 5s, Mantura is one of the monsters you can use while you wait for those.
Gotcha. Alrighty, let's take a look at this one here. This was going to be a shocker to most, but I'm excited for you to kind of talk about this one here. Elpuria, the Light Serpent. A lot of us hate it in that TOA hard stage, when it's early eye up in there. So, what's your take on this unit?
The thing is, if you go into something with the intent of bruising it, and you use, for example, Emma or Talk in order to get yourself survivability, you can have Euphoria and use that passive to get a lot more defense. You can get 100% more defense, and you can get 100% more attack power, which will affect the damage you deal, and it will over time become a bruiser that deals enough damage, and because it's an HP monster, you get the natural tankiness. It does decent damage. It's tanky, and you can use it for bruising down the opponent with destroy runes. While I think it's a overlooked and decent unit, there are so many good units out there that we'll talk about. So it falls down the ladder, but I think it's overlooked because it's still a decent monster.
Gotcha. I'm really looking forward to seeing if anybody after this video kind of plays around with this, because ultimately it's definitely a unique monster, and a lot of us probably have this sit in their monster box. So
yeah, I do. I can build one just to showcase him for you if you want someday.
Yeah.
In my mind, Armada is there to tank the brunt damage while you take care of the secondary damage, like for example from Perna.
Okay.
Perna will be tanked by Armada, while the secondary damage dealer will be killed off by your fire units.
Gotcha.
For example, Sierra.
Gotcha.
And because of that way, you can say it's no, my bad. My bad. You use Umida mostly for taking that brunt damage while you take care of the secondary threat. And Elfuria is more in the Tractor and soon to be, I hope, Sin mold where you use it for bruising down the opponent over a longer period of time, using Destroy and Violent if you want that. But since it doesn't have the same passive that Sin will get and Tractor has, you'll want will runes on it. So in my mind, you'd go will destroy, or will destroy shield as an example.
Gotcha. Right on. I'm looking forward to it here. Let's take a look at the next list of units. The next family that we got going on here is a very popular family when it comes to the water side. We have ourselves the Frankstein family. Tractor here, definitely a unit that I've showcased many times. I think Vane, I mean, we have a lot of people that have showcased this unit.
Yeah,
Tractor
Tractor is Guild War God.
A Guild War God. I love it here. So let's talk about the pros on this particular unit and what kind of scenarios do you think you would use this one in?
I use him just about everywhere.
That's the best answer ever.
Yeah, with Tractor, you have someone that can't be defense broken, who has good base stats in both defense and HPs, and he does damage based on defense, and he does stun, and you can AoE provoke if some of the other monsters in the party gets close to dying. So yeah, it's just an overall fantastic unit.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about it is, the stun and the provoke. Obviously, the activation, they're not 100%. So you're still going to have that aspect of assistance. Accuracy versus resistance that you have to rely on. And if you guys didn't notice here, this is one of the few units out there where I actually feel like it's an awakening ability actually goes in line with the unit here. Having an opportunity to get extra accuracy to help you land those stuns and those provokes is pretty darn good.
Yeah, Contest really needs to change that resistance awakening on Sin.
Oh my god, it's just nasty. It's just nasty.
But yeah, Tractor has good base stats, a fantastic passive, and you build him with one destroy set at least, and after that it becomes really about stats. In my world, the optimal Tractor has double destroy and shield sets. Shield set because you don't need will on him, which makes it easier to enable your party members to get by more often against Anorion, which is a popular defense monster these days. Mm-hmm. And some want swift destroy, and others will want destroy, revenge, and so on. But yeah, there's many ways to build him. Ultimately, for most people, it will all be about the stats after that one destroy set.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's many ways to build him, and he's so great. Yep. And you use him against just about anything because, in my mind, okay, you don't want to use him against someone like Mulang, the water panda, which does damage. I think I'm not 100% sure because I haven't played around with one and haven't read a lot about him, but I think he does damage based on his HP, which is more like clean shot, because he loses the HP as well. I think it's more fixed, so your defense won't negate the damage as it will with just about everything else.
Yeah, it is a fixed damage.
So I wouldn't use him against a Mulang, but apart from Mulang, I'd take him against anything.
Gotcha. Right on. All right. And then, of course, we've already kind of mentioned already Talk Tractor X, where X could be the element that is going to be taking the heat or whatnot here. Any other composition that you can think of that you messed around with regards to Tractor?
Yeah, I use both the Wind Golem, Ragion, and the Light Golem, Grogo, a lot because they offer, they give themselves the immunity, which helps. Because you have Tractor who can't be defense broken. If you have the other defense-based damage dealer that gives himself immunity because you don't get immunity from the healer, which is Talk or Emma, you just become so much more tanky and more reliable.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you can use him with Bulldozer on Will, for example, and nuke with Bulldozer to take one monster away, and use Tractor to bruise down the rest.
Gotcha. And then of course this one, by far is the most popular one, but we want to do a definite honorable mention here because these units here, like I said, if you happen to get them and you build them, skill them out or whatnot, you can find a lot of value in him. So let's take a look at Driller first off here. Light Frankenstein, what's your take on this unit? How do you go about incorporating it?
Well, it's a defense and HP based unit, so it's relatively bruisey, but in my mind, it's while it's decent, it's a fun toy to play around with. It doesn't come up as well as the golems I talked about. Crawler, who does a lot more damage, I think, from what I've seen or what I've read, and Bulldozer, who will ignore defense. So while I think he's interesting, I think he falls a bit under them. So
Gotcha. And the dark one here, is it kind of that same thing, or a little bit more damage, but more or less kind of the same scenario as the light one?
Yeah, but because it has the extra damage, it can be used in that bruiser comp that has basalt and Veramos in it that Mards uses against. Again, a shout out to him. I think he gets a lot of bad rep just because he's an entertainer. But that's actually a smart combo.
Gotcha. And so one thing to kind of think about, I don't want to put Mars on blast because I love his content too.
Yeah, I do.
We know it's entertainment based here, but in this particular scenario here, this is another unit here that you're gonna try to. I'm assuming you're gonna try to set up in a way that is gonna force the opponent to hit him versus your other particular units here. When we think about that kind of mono element team that he was recommending, wouldn't it be hard for the opponent to focus on Crawler when they have other dark units, or would you maybe take him versus?
No, you use him against AOE damage dealers.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, use him against AOE damage dealers and so he can proc the counter and then do the work. Okay, so
yeah, and you get a lot of CC with that comp because Veramos does done a lot and Violent procs a lot and is naturally built with a lot of speed, while Crawler will stun on the first skill and you have provoke and attack bar reduction on basalt. So yeah, it's a good comp.
Yep. I use my Leica all the time in comps that are bringing 2 or more AoE, so I could definitely agree there. Versus AoE comps, you could take a lot of advantage of units that have some unique counters or passives or whatnot, so you could take advantage of. So let's take a look here. Oh man, this next family here, definitely one of the ones that got a lot of hype early on. We've seen a lot of top influencers, YDCB rep this one. A lot of people try it out. And now, we're going to give a reason to get it back in the meta if people are not using it here. We got Kali, the Fire High Elemental, the first one we want to talk about here. Tell me a little bit about this one, the pros and the cons, and how you would incorporate it, what kind of teams you like.
Well, the con is pretty obvious. It's a squishy monster. You either need to defend it with monsters like Chandra, Chloe, or you need to get your turn quite fast with, for example, a fast Konamiya or Tion, the light Garuda, or you can pair it with, for example, Immensity and Copper if you need a single target nuker for wind, or Bulldozer if you need a single target nuker for an extra single target nuker for wind.
Gotcha.
And if you use it with Immensity, for example, you boost up the attack bar of Kali, then use Kali's skill to provide itself invincibility, and then the other monster would then need to be on will runes so it doesn't get stunned and stuff like that early on, and then you just nuke away.
Right on. Yeah, so that team, and then go to, like one of the things we talked about there, like a Kali, Katarina, Chloe comp. Having Kali kind of clean up the mess after Katarina. Yeah, buddy. Let's see here.
Yeah, it does.
Of course, if we go this particular route, in that aspect there, your Katarina is going to have a little bit more critical rate. Generally speaking, people use Katarina in a situation that allows her to, or brings a unit that will, buff not just attack power but a critical rate as well. So
yeah, you could also have will runes on Katarina and use the Water Horus, Kebes Senuf or something like that, and boost up and protect Kali. Have will runes on Katarina because Katarina has very good base stats overall, and have Kali protect itself and boost everything and nuke something, say a Theomars down, and yeah, it's a bit more complicated and risky, but it's just an alternative.
Gotcha. And then of course,
Just to get a nuke off.
yeah, and then one of the other units that we definitely want to pair with this one here. We've seen it time and time again on the videos and streams out there. Konamiya, a really strong unit out there for attack bar manipulation and providing that attack buff here. Since Kali's big nuke does not need a defense break, it kind of goes hand in hand with Kali. You don't have to be focused on making her really fast. Kona will do the work, get her up to the attack bar, and get it done. Let's see.
Yeah, and shout out to Wayne Solidor on the EU server for advocating Konami as much as he does.
Yes.
It is a fantastic unit. On the other side, you have Tion, who has a bit more base defense than Konami. So those of us who doesn't have, you could say, the same rune quality that Vayne does in order to get a Konami tanky as well as fast. You can use Tion and still have Resurge in order to speed up the Kali.
Gotcha. Alrighty. And then the other pair of unit here, one of the ones that I used to play around with a lot, and then they had that patch, I think it was about a year or two ago. It might have been a while, probably about a year ago, where they nerfed this unit from an attacker to a support monster. We got Shren, the Light Hat Elemental. This is one of those that I feel like now needs to be a little bit more rune dependent in order for you to take advantage of it. But ultimately speaking, when we're thinking about G1, G2, do you think that this still can do enough damage to get the job done?
Yeah, it can. It can do enough damage to kill off well-runed Vela Jewels and stuff like that. So it's still a usable monster. People more or less threw it away after it changed from attack type to support type. But it's still a good monster. It's just easy to rune in order to get the damage up. But the thing with it is because it's light, you don't have the same ability to control the AI of the opponent. And it doesn't have the self buff that Akali does, which makes it more safe. So you kind of needed to be able to take a hit,
right?
Which is why the rune requirements goes up a bit.
Gotcha, right on. And then this is another one that we would kind of pair with Kona or Tion in certain situations here. Any other particular compositions that you can play around with this?
Yeah, there's probably a few, but ultimately it's a nuker. And yeah, in my philosophy, nukers are there if you're outruned or outruning your opponents. So most often I wouldn't use Shren, but it's a viable alternative for those who can. It does also ignore defense, so it goes for the same as Kali. It's squishy, but it does deal a lot of damage. And if you compare it with Konamiya or Tion, you can still get that ignore defense damage from a specific element, which again makes it so you can tank on the other side and nuke with that one. So it's usable, but it's squishy and it becomes somewhere between Shren and Kali in usage.
Gotcha. Right on. Yep. Good note there. So yeah, now that we're in the water family here, I basically just want to mention this briefly because this is one that I believe everybody at the mid game completely understands how valuable this is, but we want to mention this one because it is obviously if you're maybe newer to the game and you've collected this one via Unknown Scrolls or the Magic Shop or whatever, collect them all, get those skill ups and build this one because this is a great unit, not only for Guild Wars but for PvE progression in certain situations here. So Konamiya, go ahead.
No, it's a fantastic unit. It has low base defense and relatively low base speed, but if you have the runes for it, you can make it both tanky and such a good support monster. So you can use it in dragons in order to get into that. You can use it in giants, a bit less good there, but you can still use it to cleanse off and get, for example, an Orochi to get more turns and get those dots piled up on the boss. Just for starter, people can use it in TOA in order to get more turn control with both stun and the resurge. And yeah, it's just a fantastic unit. Also, you have people like Vayne, who uses Konamiya in arena offense every now and then with Orochi, Bernard, Konamiya, and Lucian, in order to use that slow Lucian as a high damage dealing Lucian, because you don't need speed on it.
Right. And that's something to really think about, because when you're at that mid stage of the game, you've understood that Lucian is great, but ultimately you're just trying to do everything you can to get his offensive stats maxed. Not a lot of people are thinking about that speed substat there, so this can kind of you can take advantage of it, like you're saying. So
yeah. And for Guild Wars offense, and I've seen some on defense as well. For offense, you can use it as a support monster alongside, for example, Ermida, as it heals based on max HP. Well, it heals based on HP percent of everyone, and which means essentially that Ermida gets a lot of heals out of it.
Right. Alrighty. Let's talk about the one unit that all of us got, and maybe some of us threw away when we first started the game, Tion. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, if you don't need the cleanse from Konamiya, Tion will give you basically the same stuff, but with a better base defense.
Gotcha.
And the revive there, well, it's not a good revive. You'll get targeted anyway right afterwards. But yeah, it has the same thing, but it's more tanky, so you can use that as well as an alternative if you don't want to use your Konamiya. Don't want to. You can't use your Konamiya on both teams, so having both is good. But
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty. And so let's take a look at the next one here. This one actually, this is one that we really don't have to spend a lot of time on as well, because a lot of people already know about it, but it's not so much the actual unit in and of itself, but what we can do to counter what we currently see. So the next one here is an old school unit by the name of Miss Rena, the Water Epikion Priest. If I can find her chilling, she should be right at the beginning of the list when it comes to these units here. Let's see, there she is. Rena here, what is the number one way, in your humble opinion, to utilize this unit, versus the meta, what we see?
The perfect Rena, in my eyes, has Will, Shield, and Destroy. But if you're going to have Destroy in it, you'll have some insane rune requirements on stats. So for most people, Will, Shield, Endure, or Energy, or something like that is good.
Right. And
the thing with Rena is she's basically the water version of Ermida, in that you naturally build her tanky. The shield provides more tankiness, and she provides some heal if you're able to put some speed on her as well for a party.
Yep.
You can use her because you can use her with shield and will. You get more protection against Orion, and because she is built so tanky and with high resistance, you can use her against Sierra.
Yep, that's the biggest thing there for me.
Yeah.
I get too many people seeing Ciara comps in, and of course, I know for some of the people, they're probably sitting back like, but not all of us see Ciara or whatnot or whatever. But ultimately, there's a ton of units that people can get that are rare, whether it's Ciara, whether it's the Wind Monkey King. There's a lot of key wind-based monsters that people are trying to take advantage of with their bombs, with their defense breaks, and this can really stop that. So.
Yeah, I've seen some arenas that are able to tank Feng Yams as well, the wind panda.
That's another good one.
Yeah, so there's a lot of defense, Guild War defense monsters that arena can tank. So yeah, alongside Ermida, I think of it as a must-have tactical option for most people.
Yep, and it's easy to build, guys. This is a 3-star unit. I mean, I think we've even had, Comptos offer some old school. I mean, it's been a while, but they've offered us like some secret dungeons, like 3-day or 7-day ones. So, Or maybe not this unit. I think it was a different one there. I think it was the Wind one that they did, not this one. But yeah, this one this one would have sucked if they offered it as a secret dungeon. But I believe they have done the Wind one back in the day, way back in the day. So either way, though, I think this is a common unit to get. So might definitely consider building it here. All right, so the next group of units have to be one of my top two units that we're going to be talking about today. The Golems. The Golems.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more excited here. And we're actually going to start out with one. I want to give I know he doesn't watch his videos anymore, but, the first time I saw this unit was actually from Reefy. Reefy was using this one here. He's an old school Summon Sword YouTuber that quit. Do you remember Reefy?
I know of him. A lot of the people I've been in guilds with really like him. Yeah. I've checked out a few videos, but it didn't stick for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't because it was bad content or anything like that. It was just...
It's okay. If you feel it's bad, it's bad. It's okay. We're family here. No one's going to watch this video. I just play.
Dude, if the guy loves Ragion and was one of the first to use him, then he's definitely someone like me when it comes to that kind of thinking, because I love him.
He's my bestie.
He's one of my most cherished units these days.
Yeah, buddy. So let's take a look at here. We got the same impact for all wind golems here. 25% chance to stun with the taunt as well. The defensive immunity buff.
And the harmful effect rate goes up a lot.
Yes, the harmful effect rate goes up. Yeah, this goes up quite substantially here.
Yeah, let's see.
And then that defensive buff, a lot of people overlook this, but all of these golems that have the iron defense here, they get that attack bar increase by 50%. So they're real quick. Even if you're like kind of debating, should I use this unit, this skill now or the second one, you're going to be able to use this one and get that attack bar increase pretty darn quickly. The damage infliction is reduced, paired up with that defensive buff and a defense monster. Wow, he is not going to be taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, and at level 40, he has over 10,000 base HP and over 700 base defense, and he does damage based on defense, and he buffs himself, and he gives himself immunity, and he reduces more damage, and he has a natural inbuilt revenge proc, so you can build him with will runes and have revenge in there. So yeah, it's fantastic unit.
Stop what you're doing and build Ragion. I mean, this literally has everything you can ask for here. 2 to 3 ways of like increasing its effective HP, a counterattack on it, and allowing you, like I said, it's just a perfect unit to tank monsters. I mean, and you don't even have to use the revenge set if you don't want to. You can play around with those destroy the shield sets that you were talking about. I mean, the sky is limitless. So let's see here.
He's fantastic.
Fantastic here. And, of course, let's talk about his brother from another mother, Mr. Groggle. Everybody knows about this one. This one gets a lot of hype if you have it. One of my favorite units because of the fact that he cannot be one-shotted with regards to his passive here. Now, we've talked about different different teams that we would utilize with some of the water-based units we showcase. Is there anything you really want to mention since we kind of already talked about this one a little bit briefly?
No, not really. He's... elemental neutral version of Ragion with similar base stats, similar skill sets. The only thing is he doesn't reduce the damage all the time. Instead, he has a maximum amount of damage every hit can do to him, and it doesn't have the revenge proc. You can build him exactly the same way as Ragion, really. You can build them with a will set and a pair of destroy set, or will destroy shield, or whatever really. As long as you have a will set there, he doesn't really need that on the first turn. But in order to keep it damage up from the get go, it's good to have will there for him as well.
Gotcha. Right on. Let's take a look at the next family here. This is one that I've showcased quite a few times, both of these units here. We're going to be moving on over to the Vagabond family. First one up in this mix, we got ourselves Cayenne, a.k.a. Cayenne Pepper. I tell you what, man. Before I got into Tractor, Cayenne was my bae. So tell me a little bit about this unit. Why do you like this one so much?
I like him because he has the he can provoke AoE, and at the same time he buffs his own defense for 3 turns, and he has a good base defense of 615 and a good base HP of over 10,000. So he's just a genuinely tanky, well, bruisey unit that you can use alongside a lot of monsters.
Yeah.
But again, he's not defense based, so is he optimal for the kind of comps that I talk about? No, but he does have a good skill set and good base stats, so he's absolutely a monster you can use for bruising. And the same goes for his dog brother Jabal, which I think is extremely underrated.
Gotcha. And I ain't gonna lie. I think it's only a 1-turn cooldown. Was this unit have a 100% uptime on that third skill? Does it go down to a 3-turn cooldown, or is it 4-turn? I thought it was. I don't know why.
It's 3 turns.
It can go down to a 3-turn. Yeah, because that was one of the things that was unique to me. When I originally looked at it, a lot of people are like, what are you doing? But that 3-turn cooldown time on that skill, providing that 3-turn defense buff, I mean, that's just amazing. Literally, you can just cycle through those skills if you are playing with a violent setup on this one. But if you do want to play around with other runes such as shield, destroy, whatever, I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to do that. But what, in your humble opinion, how would you build this one here?
Violent will.
Violent will. There you go.
Again, in my opinion, will almost needs to be on every Guild War monster.
Right.
So just to have that option of using it against almost anything. And you can use it with defense HP, HP, speed HP. It's not very important which of those you go for, as long as you get a fair amount of defense, a fair amount of speed, a fair amount of HP, you'll have a tanky unit.
Gotcha. Right on. Alrighty. Let's take a look at the next one here. We got ourselves Jubel, one of the favorite ones here that I've enjoyed. And if anybody's real old school, like 2014 old school, this was the last unit Comp2Us gave us before they introduced the Light and Dark Scroll in the monthly, like free rewards that we get on a daily basis there. So this is one that for every old school person, they have this unit here, but if you don't, you can farm this one. I believe this one is a farmable like secret dungeon monster. So
yes, it is a secret dungeon monster.
This is a pretty unique kit here. Damage reduction by 50, critical rate reduction by 50, and then of course cooldown time reduction every time you hit here. What's your take on it? You like that passive all around? What do you think?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It decreases critical hit chance, which makes you more tanky. If you go in with defense buff monster, you have more tankiness through that, because it has a high base defense of 659 and base speed of 113. It makes him easy to rune. He has a slightly under 10k HP on the base, which again, it's not exactly where you want it to be, but because it has such high base speed, such high base defense, and that passive helping him, it makes him easier to rune.
Yep.
You get a lot out of the runes you put on him.
Gotcha. And how would you build it? What runes would you do?
Violent will, I think.
Gotcha. Because it follows the same category of the fire one there. Yeah, I like a violent will too.
Yeah, you'd want the extra damage from violent on him most often, but you could, in theory, rune him with destroy set as well, especially since you can provoke the enemy and provoke, as well as defense breaking them. So yeah, he could work with destroy as well, but I definitely would have will on him. Because while he does have that 50% anti-crit on his passive, a bad crit on defense break could mean death. So yeah.
Most definitely. All right, here. So next one up we got for y'all today, we're going to be moving over to the wind element side. This is a unit that has been showcased, I believe, by Vane Solidor in previous Educate Nominate videos, but we're going to go ahead and reintroduce it because depending on how you incorporate it in certain comps that we'll discuss, this can be a unit that can provide yourself quite a bit of options here. So, Ramahan, the Wind Inugami, tell me a little bit about this unit.
Oh, Ramahan. He has a speed lead, which makes it so you get a bigger advantage when you try to outspeed someone with Immensity and Copper. He's defense based, so he does damage and does more damage with the defense buff you get from Immensity. So in that pairing, I love him. You can use him against those pesky Theomars, Orion, Chasun comps if you want. Just because if you don't go in with Ramahan or, for example, Orochi, who is an alternative to do the same role, you go in and you'll have Orion versus Immensity in the speed. But if you go in with speed lead from either of them, you have a bigger chance of going first. And he can easily pop Theomars and Dur with his third skill. So, yeah, I just really love him for that counter specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually, when I saw this unit first used, I was pretty darn surprised how much damage this can actually do. Like it was pretty substantial.
It has around 800, I think it's 790 or something, as the base multiplier for the third skill. Mm-hmm. And if it's very low, it has over 1,000 in multiplier, I think, or something around 1,000.
And let's kind of break away from this topic at hand, and let's get into that damage multiplier just a little bit. For the people that are coming up in the game and whatnot, they've heard about damage multiplier this, damage multiplier that, and I've seen ranges of 150 upwards of like certain units like Leica with the Justice, depending on how many allies are died, where it's upwards of 1,050 plus here. What do you think, when people look at, maybe they check out some websites or Reddit and they see these things and they say, oh, this unit has, somebody's put some information out, this unit has X amount of multiplier. In your humble opinion, what do you feel is a good amount of damage multiplier on a particular unit? Can you classify that? Can it be simplified, or what do you think?
No, not really. You can say, for example, Pungbak has a high damage multiplier on his third skill, but he does not have a high base attack, which he scaled off of. So, yeah, you can say that multipliers do matter a lot, but it comes alongside whatever is the damage attribute of the monster.
Really, really cool. Thank you for that. And that's the one thing that when I rewatch this video, I'm gonna take home, because I always look at, when people focus on critical damage and damage multipliers, I always look at that damage multiplier and I'm like, oh, that's my way of justifying it, when ultimately there's so many other aspects that we got to look at. That's what makes this game so cool and unique. There's so many cool things to kind of focus on here.
And shout out to the Wikia site. I'm not sure who's running it, but they have a lot of the multipliers on their site. So just Google it, come to that site, and whenever you're wondering if a monster has a high multiplier, it's usually on there.
Gotcha. Right on. Let's take a look at here for another Guild War offensive unit that you wanted to go ahead and mention. We have ourselves Rakuni, the Fire Harg. I'm actually a pretty darn big fan of this one here. I have seen it utilized quite a bit now in even the G2 and G3 ranks there when it comes to the Guild War defense here. But for offensive side, what's your take on this unit? How do you like to use
it? You can go for the free-to-play way to counter the Sierra, Orion, Perna defenses with using Thessarion, Rakuni, and Rina. Rina to tank the Sierra and use Thessarion on the first turn, and defense break and Oblivion the Perna. Use Rakuni to boost up Thessarion's attack bar again and give him the speed buff, which again increases his damage, and then nuke down the Perna and you're basically done. And the minor heal and cleanse does help in the longer runs. It's a good monster, but I think it has slightly low base stats in order to be a fantastic one, because it has a very niche use, in my opinion. That you don't want to run it up with your best sets. So if you have farmed a lot, you'll have spare sets in order to make it proper usable. But in general, it will be good to counter those kind of teams.
Gotcha. Right on. I like it. Let me see here. Since we already kind of talked about the Rakuni a little bit here, I think the next unit here, or units that will be hitting up here, I do remember that we didn't mention it when we talked about the Frankstein family. It's kind of silly, you would think, because of the fact that it obviously falls in the mix of units, but this is not one of the uncommon units. This is more of the common units here. We have ourselves Bulldozer, the fire tractor. So if there was a unit out there that you've already heard so much about, not just with the tractor with regards to bulldozer here. This one falls in the mix here. So, anything you wanted to kind of add that maybe some people don't know about this unit here, or how would you go about using it? What do you think?
Well, you can use him in two ways. As I see it, you can use him as a nuker in a nuking team, or you can use him as a nuker in a bruising team. You have Olivia and Chloe as good partners. I'm a big fan of Chloe for Guild Wars. You can use him on both shield plus swift set in order to go before Orion and still sit there with immunity or invincibility in order to not take a huge hit. Or you can use it on violent and have a good amount of immunity uptime, heal, and more rounds with invincibility. But with Bulldozer, you can use him with Copper and MST. MST was Hall of Heroes not too long ago. Everyone who didn't farm one will regret it. And Bulldozer does good damage. A well-run Bulldozer will deal around 40k, which can nuke down most things. And Copper as pairing is good, while you can use Olivia and Bulldozer in order to survive the oncoming slaughter from other monsters while you nuke them down one by one if you're going for a more bruisey nuke team.
Gotcha. And so...
and Olivia does have defense lead for Guild Wars, which helps a lot as well.
That can help a lot, but ultimately, when we're thinking about the mid game, they're going to have a tough time, getting that critical rate up. So they might have a little bit more of luck trying to pair it with a unit. You would think that's going to provide them that critical rate, or what do you think?
You were asking,
like to pair it with a unit that has like a critical rate buff, or what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of pairing it with Immensity for that. Mine is built with Violent Will with 70% crit rate. So it's a bit in the middle of how you want to build it either way. I use it both with Olivia sometimes and with Copper other times. So I'd prefer to go one way, but I don't have the runes for it yet.
Gotcha.
Either make it for Olivia comp or make it for Copper comp. If it's Copper comp, go as much damage as you can plus will runes. If it's for Olivia comp, go with something that makes it sustain a bit of damage, be able to take some hits.
Gotcha.
While having will runes is always good.
Gotcha. Right on. And then of course, the last one to mention that we already kind of talked about with regards to Copper. Is there anything everybody already knows about Copper? These last few units, guys, they're not really underrated units, but they're definitely.
There are people still who hasn't made them.
There's people still who haven't made them, so we want to go ahead and throw these in here. I found them eventually. All right, so the Wind Living Copper here, the Wind Living Armor Copper here. Again, just everybody knows about him, but for those that don't, what is your one or two brief things you want to say about him? As far as building them,
make him.
That's
that's really all. You can rune him off for as much damage as possible. Attack stat does help him deal more damage, and in a perfect world, you'll have will on both him and Bulldozer in order to be able to pick and choose who you want to nuke with first.
Yep.
But for most people, it's Bulldozer who gets that will set, and Copper who doesn't. But yeah, in a perfect world, you'll have will on both.
Gotcha. Right on. And so before we move on over to the Guild War picture, so we can do a Guild War analysis, why not? I want to go ahead and we want to go ahead and do an honorable mention here for a 4-star unit here that definitely gets overlooked. Kind of in that same philosophy of the 3-star monsters here, but could provide value to depending on how you incorporate it in your lineup here. So we got ourselves Mr. Susano, the Water Ninja. Tell me a little bit about why you think this is overlooked and how people could take advantage of it.
The thing is, a lot of people run around with a Perna, but they don't have a Sierra to make that good Guild War defense. We've talked a bit about how to beat it, but the idea is basically Orion will debuff you and Sierra and Perna will kill you. And Susano, if you don't have Sierra, will provide you with 30% speed lead for Orion. So and itself. So you still get that speed lead, which help you move first on defense, and you'll get a bit higher in requirements on your Perna because it needs higher speed to be speed synced than if they all get the speed lead. But it does good damage. It has 911, I think it was, base attack. And despite how stat-wise it seems squishy with 8,000 HP and 527 base defense, it has that passive, which reduces critical chance by, critical rate on it by 50% and gives it 50% resistance. So, yeah, it's a good unit for those of us who lacks that Sierra in order to complete that speed team defense.
Gotcha. Right on.
And it's fusible, so you can make it whenever. And yeah, I made it as one of my. I struggle with getting good Guild War defense monsters. I think I'm on around 146 stars, but amazingly, I can't put up a single good tactical Guild War defense yet. So I tried around with Conrad, the light Death Knight, which has a speed leader and other speed leader monsters. And Susanoo so far seems the best option for those that are relatively easy to get.
Right on. Cool, cool, cool. All right. I think that's about it for our list of the units here. What we'll go ahead and do is close off this video and use this as a part one of the two-part series for the Operation Big Game Guild Wars Edition. Once again, Beastrix, thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate you taking the time and energy to go ahead and create this for the community.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Alrighty. So guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Within 24 hours, we're going to go ahead and have the new part 2 video for you talking about these particular units and how we can incorporate them in what we see in the Guild War meta today, okay? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's your boy Childish and Beastrix with ChildishPlays checking out. Take care, and we will see you next time, guys. We're out.